Hello paper crafters, I'm Sunny Sky and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Today we're using the Moon Baby set from the New Occasions catalog, as well as the Textured Impressions embossing folder that's called Celebrations Duo, and this is actually for debossing your image. For today's card, you'll need the full card size, which is standard 5.5 by 8.5. And then our first layer is actually covering the entire front of the full card. And then we have a sheet of Today's card does use the standard card size, where you're going to use get 2 out of 1 sheet of cardstock, 5.5 by 8.5, and then the first layer on our card actually covers the full card. I've used this Serene Sceneries Designer Series paper stack, and there are lots of designs in here, nature kind of designs, and I thought they'd make a nice background. We are using the full card size because this front layer is so big that I wanted to have plenty of that background paper showing behind. And so you can see that in my first sample I used the green, and this one that we're going to use today we're using the bluer background from that. And so then the very top layer is So today's card is a standard size card, so your back layer, your full card, will be half of a standard sheet of cardstock. And then the first colored layer is from the Serene Scenery Designer Series paper stack, and I've used this in several projects, and so we're using it again today. And because our front layer is pretty large, I cut this to actually fill the whole full size of the card. So a lot of times I'll have a layer of white behind, but in this particular card you don't see the full card, that white card, at all on the front. You've got a layer covering all of it. And the top layer is the watercolor paper, and so this is cut at 3 3/4 by 5 just to give it enough size so you see the color behind it and still have enough room for this image to have some space and for our Celebrate Debossed greeting that's on the top of the card. So the first thing we'll do is stamp on the So we're going to stamp our main image. So we're going to stamp our image on the watercolor paper, and so let me just pull this out of the case, and you see that I left the negative image of that rubber on there. That helps me know if I've got all my stamps in the set or if I'm missing one. So I like to do that when I've got the unmounted stamp sets. I'm going to give a good firm impression, and I'm going to let it sit for just a second because this is textured paper and I want to get a good inking up of that stamp. The watercolor paper does have a smoother side and a rougher side, and I did stamp on the rougher side just because it carries the water a little bit better, and I'm not too worried about parts of the image not showing because it is a watercolored image, so it doesn't matter if there's a little bit missing. So I'm using the Blushing Bride, Soft Sky, So Saffron, and Smoky Slate to do this watercolored image. And in addition to pressing the stamp pad on the lid, because these are paler colors of ink, when you just press the stamp pad, and what I mean by that is this flexible cover, you just press down and you can get ink on the roof of your stamp pad. But with these paler ink pads, you don't get as much showing. And so I just add a little bit of my ink refill just to get a little more color on the roof of my pad there. I'm just squeezing out the water in there, and I'm just going to give this sweet little baby a pair of blue pajamas. And so I'm just going to go right through first with kind of just a light wash of color. And when you're watercoloring, you don't have to specifically stay in the lines. And then when you want to switch colors, you just rub it off on scrap paper, and that will clear it up for your next colored image. And then we've got baby's skin here. And this Blushing Bride works pretty well for the skin. And I'm going to get off some of the extra because I don't want them to be too pink. So I'm just deleting some of that color. And then I'm just going to come back in with a little bit of pink and just give a little extra dab right in the cheeks, just to give them some rosy cheeks. Okay, and now that this blue's had a little bit of time to dry, I'm going to come back in with some color and kind of make some shading. Of course, the underside of baby's legs and belly are going to be a little darker, and so we're just going to add a little bit more color there to give some natural shading to the outfit. And I also want to take this little bottom flap and make that a little darker as well. I don't know how well that shows in the video, but I just made a little extra accent there. And then we're going to do the moon and the star with our lovely yellow ink that we've got here. And this moon, I'm going to say, is going to be darker down below. And so I'm kind of starting my inking down there. And then as you continue with that ink on the brush, it's going to get a little paler. So then I'll just sort of work that color up a little higher up. Now remember, you're watercoloring, so you don't have to stay specifically in the lines. You can have a little bit of a messy look because that water is going to kind of drag the color around as well. So you just remember when you're watercoloring that you're trying to give some visual cues as to how it would actually appear in nature. So you do want lighter and darker areas. So I'm saying that my light source is coming from up here, so I'm just creating more color down at the base of this image. Now when you're watercoloring, you are having a light source, which mine is up here, and so I'm getting more color down at the base of the image. So just by going back over a couple more layers, that helps me do that. And then I'm going to pull in some of this smoky slate and just create a shadow under the moon. That's maybe a little darker than I wanted, but that'll be fine. Alright, and one thing about this watercolor paper, because it's a little bit thicker than your standard cardstock and because it's textured, it holds more water, and so that does allow you to go back and make those little bit of additional layers of moisture in there as you're coloring without the paper pilling up and falling apart. So that's a good reason to invest in the special paper when you're watercoloring images. Okay, so I think we're about done there, and then we're just going to emboss the folder on the top. Let me clean my water brush here. I've given this a chance to dry just a little bit before I run this through my Big Shot, and so again we're using this set of embossing folders, and most of our embossing folders you're going to emboss with, but these actually provide a debossed image. And so just when you put this folder on your card, remember that if you can see it on the folder and read it, that's how it's going to put the impression on your project. So make sure that your word is not backwards. You don't want to end up with the baby on one side and the saying on the other side. So I'm just using my plates, and I'm going to turn this sideways just because this one is quite wide. So I'm just going to turn it this way and run it through. Okay. And the magic of embossing or debossing. Now you can stamp on top of this word, and because it's depressed under there, and with the watercolor paper it gets depressed a little more than you would if you just used standard Whisper White cardstock. You can stamp on top of here and get some of the words to stand out even more by creating a background. So I used my balloon celebration set. Now if you'd like this word to stand out just a little bit more, I'm going to show you how to do that, and so then you can compare the two samples, the one I originally had and this card that I'm creating today. So for this, I'm just using the Balloon Celebration set and the cloud on that. And we're doing this soft sky, and I'm going to pull in, because this is an unmounted stamp, I'm just going to pull in a little of my foam pad behind here to do my stamping. And I'm going to stamp off once just because I want this to be very delicate and dainty. And I'm going to do one cloud upside down here, just because clouds are always different in the sky. Alright, so there you can see a very sort of subtle way to sort of accent that word at the top. Now this set of folders does come with a coordinating stamp set, which has a lot of great shapes that you can put above the letters, and also the words themselves, so you can stamp them and deboss them, so that's really neat. But I am just not doing that on this project today. You know, you can only buy so much stuff out of the catalog, so I used a stamp set that I already had to create some of that background. So there is that one, and there's the green one, and this is the one on the left does not have any stamping behind the word celebrate, and the one on the right does. And then because this card is very flat, I don't have a lot of accents because I just made it simple. I did add some Stampin' Dimensionals on the back, and I'm going to add quite a few because I want it to stay popped up. So I'm going to use 8 here, so it's all around the corners, the center, and then even in the middle as well. And so I'll just attach those and finish off that card. So I'm just going to finish up with a greeting on the inside of my card. It just simply says, "Hello Baby," and that's again from that same stamp set, Moon Baby. So I hope you enjoyed the card today. Thanks for joining me for this video. Please subscribe to my channel, share this video with a friend, and if you don't already have a demonstrator, shop on my website as well, and go have some fun crafting.